Syria's Assad denying any involvement in that chemical attack. I brought this up with the head of NATO just moments ago.
I have no reason to doubt that the United States have a very solid basis for their analysis and for the intelligence they have got showing that the Assad regime is behind the chemical attacks.
To Army Special Forces veteran Ben Collins and former Deputy Undersecretary of the Navy Seth Cropsey. Seth, let me start with you. This geopolitical stuff is coming at us so much faster, I think, than anyone had anticipated, and it feels like we're on a precipice of something happening with regard to real military engagement and 2 or maybe even more new theaters at the same time. How do we handle this?
I think the president is doing the right thing. Your previous guest was talking about how military action by itself cannot solve these problems, but yeah, that's right, and I think what he was referring to is actually using force, but sending a very strong signal that forces are there, that they're capable, that they're able to deliver weapons such as you talked about in Afghanistan, is a powerful means of concentrating the minds of our adversaries, and I think that's exactly the right way to handle this.
Ben, our adversaries have been emboldened over the last 8 years through the essentially a feckless foreign policy or approach to war by President Obama, but it feels like we're at a point where we're going to be forced to put up or shut up beyond those 59 Tomahawk missiles from last week.
Certainly, absolutely, I agree. And to the comment that you made when we came into this segment, you know, it's that the geopolitical stuff is coming at us so fast. And honestly, Charles, I think the reality is it's always been there. But finally, we have a president, we have an administration that's paying attention to this stuff. You know, just like North Korea. You know, in the 10 years' time that they had their first nuclear test, they've gone from a 1-kiloton explosion to a 30-kiloton explosion. They're buying missiles that could soon reach San Francisco. That was 10 years, 8 of it on Obama's watch. You know, I think this stuff has always been there, but now it's come to the surface because we have a president that said, look, we're going to do something. If other people can't police their own neighborhoods, we're going to make sure that we do what's necessary so that our American citizens are kept safe.
Ben, that is a fantastic point, and President Trump, by putting the light on this, also took a big political risk because now we're going to want to see what he does about it. And what do you see perhaps the outcomes being beyond? Can we saber rattle our way through this?
Well, you have to. I think the number one thing that we have to regain after 8 years of, as you said, feckless President Obama is we've lost the ability for deterrence. And deterrence, you know, if you want to maintain peace, you have to be vigilant about the threats and be prepared to go to war. And right now, from what we're seeing, you know, going back to that, it wasn't just a red line that Obama forgot to enforce in Syria. The reality is he essentially said to the world stage, we are not going to act. And therefore, we lost the ability for deterrence, which is our enemies say, we're not going to do this because we know that the U.S. will act. So to me, what we're seeing right now, it takes a long time to build that deterrence capability, and it doesn't take a long time to lose it, and hopefully we're going to get some of that back and maintain some stability.
Right, and I'm going to get back now to this mother of all bombs, or massive air ordnance. A U.S. official now telling Fox News that it was dropped on a tunnel network Al-Qaeda had been using for a long time. They've been mounting eastern Afghanistan attacks there. It's been a hiding spot of theirs. Seth, it's 21,600 pounds. That is the mother of all bombs. How do you like this approach?
Again, I think that it sends a very useful signal, a very useful message that we have the force, that we're willing to use it, and with any luck, this weapon did accomplish what it was intended to do. And again, that enforces the message that the United States takes seriously its commitment to allies, its commitment to NATO, its commitment to security in areas where our interests are involved and those of our allies. So I think this is a positive thing, depending, of course, upon the successful accomplishment of the mission. And if this works here, there's no reason why it shouldn't be used elsewhere.
Definitely brings a new meaning to shock and awe, Ben.
Well, it does. And to go back what your last guest, Chuck Nash, said, you know, the reality here is the Taliban are going to have to be a part of the solution. They are embedded within the fabric of the Afghan society. Now, you know, organizations like the Taliban, they don't come to the negotiating table out of the goodness of their own heart. They come because they think that they can get a better deal at the negotiating table that they could on the battlefield. And for 8 years, you know, I'm a believer in that. Look, we're not at a stalemate. We're losing in Afghanistan, albeit slowly. So the Taliban think they're winning. Now suddenly Trump's in office, you know, less than 100 days, and we've just dropped the mother of all diplomatic cables over there saying, listen, you know, we're not going to play around. So, you know, again, it's 8 years of uncommitted, and now suddenly we're going to drop this bomb. And on the heels of losing, you know, Mark Delacar, Staff Sergeant Green Beret, just a couple of days ago, this sends a very strong message that we're not going to take this lying down anymore.
On that diplomatic front, Seth, you have expertise there. At what point does this take over, not just for Afghanistan, but do we start to see it become the main focus, Afghanistan, Iraq, and perhaps even Syria? Are we almost at that transition yet? You mean at the transition point where we've done enough damage, and we've proven a point to our adversaries, and they take us seriously enough that now we could start taking the final stages toward perhaps creating and securing a peace?
Well, Charles, absolutely. Look at what's happened on the border between the United States and Mexico. We have a president who says, I take the issue of border security seriously, and lo and behold, there's a consequence, which is that the number of people trying to cross illegally into the United States is falling away as we speak. The point is that actions have consequences, and when people, our adversaries and our friends around the world, see that we're once again willing to stand up for our interests, you can expect positive results. Seth, did you see the interview with Assad earlier today, where he said the United States actually was the one that used chemical weapons in conjunction with terrorists? I mean, when a guy speaks like that, I mean, we know he's something of a madman himself. It seems like it may push this to some sort of uglier conflict before we can get it resolved. Well, I wouldn't call him a madman. I think he's a calculated monster, but I don't think the terms make a great deal of difference. He lies, he kills his own people, he uses weapons of mass destruction to kill infants. Why should anybody be surprised if he lies? In addition to all of that. So, yeah. Yeah, well, but I guess, Ben, what was interesting is because he talked about an investigation, and those echoed the words that Lavrov of Russia used yesterday in his joint press conference with Rex Tillerson, which to me sounds like maybe he's getting some sort of direction from Russia. And if that's the case, Russia still entrenched, and he's still their guy. Well, look, Russia has a lot to gain from it, from their point of view. They want to be the major external power in the Middle East. They have a naval base at Tartus in Syria. They'd like to be able to project naval power into the Mediterranean. And again, as I say, they want to be the big guy in the Middle East from outside the region. So it's no surprise that they continue to back this criminal, Assad. Right. And it's yeah. Sorry. Ben, but I want to ask you, Ben, because it did feel like maybe over the 24-hour period preceding that, you had two developments. One, Vladimir Putin wasn't going to meet with Rex Tillerson. He ended up meeting with him for 2 hours. Russia was saying there was no chemical attack, and now they're saying, well, let's investigate. Does it feel like the needle did move just a little bit on the idea that maybe Russia might be willing to work with America with regime change?
Well, I think so, I mean, not that I can take too much out of it, but I think, Charles, if Russia was sincerely as angry as a lot of their local press through the state mechanisms of their media portrayed, you know, I think they would have canceled the Tillerson meet altogether. Never mind actually having a meeting that was off the books for 2 hours between Secretary Tillerson and President Putin. I mean, the fact is, once again, Vladimir Putin is a calculating guy as well. And President Trump has shown that he is not going to be pushed over. You know, for 8 years, Obama had one doctrine, and that doctrine was very simple. It was, don't do anything to irritate Iran and mess up my deal. Well, President Trump has come in here and said, look, that is not going to be my doctrine, and we are actually going to react to the conditions on the ground. And a lot of people are yelling, as you know, we've discussed this before. You know, people are saying about the U.S. Well, the fact of the matter is, you know, that chemical weapons are illegal, and they're illegal under the Geneva Convention. So a better question, I think, to the rest of those signatories is, why haven't you acted before? But now suddenly they're looking at the United States. So I think Vladimir Putin has one sincere concern, and that is NATO. Those are those eastern states. You know, Syria, he is only going to be willing to support only so far before it's just going to become kind of a lost cause for him, in a sense. So I think we're close to getting somewhere.